Well, Graham, good to see you again.
Hi,
I'll start actually with the injuries that you picked up last night in Joe Wright and Lewis Richards. Have their pictures at all become any clearer in the aftermath of that game?
Lewis is going for a scan, I think this afternoon, and Joe's just got a bit of a bang, a twist at the same time around his foot, his ankle. So he's saying he feels better than he did last night, and these things, as an ex-player himself, you can get over quite quickly. So I don't think it's the first or last one he'll get, but we'll see how he is. Obviously Friday, but I don't think Lewis will be available. But fingers crossed, Joe will be.
What's the nature of Lewis's injury?
I think it might be his hamstring. So, but the other side.
Oh right, okay.
So it's not a reoccurrence.
Yeah.
But the extent of it we don't know, but just because of just his recent history, we just want to make sure we get to the bottom of it straight away.
I know we're only a day on, less than a day on from last night, but what are your reflections coming away from Bolton last night?
Goals change games. I think it's really surprising. I don't want to reel off the data from the first half to paint a different picture, but if you took the scoreline out of it and actually watched the game, you'd think we did really well. But we just didn't have that clinical touch. The second half ran away from us in the second part of it, especially. But the first half, we just got done on counter when we were loose with our possession, and I think that had an element of not committing to that final action in an aggressive manner, playing a little bit safe, but then a bit careless, losing the ball, and then them hitting us on the counter attack twice. From our possession, and that's the story of the first half really. If you go through even the duels data, we were really good. All that sort of, so the competitive level was good when we were in those individual duels. The physical output was second top this season, but the game is about scoring more than the opponent, and when we've been fast starters, I think they were a fast start and on the goal scoring side of it. And then I think their confidence grew from that, being 2-0 up at home. And, they played with a bit of a swagger in the second half, and we found it hard after the first maybe 15 minutes of the second half. But listen, we deal with the reality of football, so we're not sitting here kidding ourselves that we deserve to win the game or anything like that. But there were fruits of something in the first half where, if we're a bit more clinical, if we get the first goal, it's all ifs and buts. The game's gone. We're out of the competition. We have to focus on Saturday.
Part answers my next question. Then, is it looking at that game, reflecting on it, trying to take the learnings from it? Do you park it quite quickly, moving forward?
Yeah, to be fair, we've just trained this morning. Obviously the players who didn't play, so we had a really good training session. I've not touched on last night with the players at all. I think I'll decide whether we do that on Friday before the next game, but I think there's lots to take from other performances in the league, especially because it's a league game that we've got coming up. So we just have to focus on what's in front of us. But I think it's important a little bit for the team, but certainly for certain individuals, which will feed back bits to them, analysis, clips, bit of opinion, because I think that's important as well, from our experience, how they can be better next time when they play.
I know we discussed the team selection last night, and I don't want to labour it too much, but just naturally in the aftermath of what happened, particularly in Brad Halliday's case, with January around the corner as well, maybe people jumping to conclusion and wondering, I guess, what lies ahead for Brad Halliday. What's your kind of take on that situation?
It's nothing in my head is looking towards January. It's about winning games of football right here and right now. And like I said last night, I assess absolutely everything, past performances, what type of performance we want from the particular game, how people are in training. I'm not just talking about Brad here individually, I'm talking about everybody, players who did play last night, players who didn't. There's a lot of information that goes in there, and I have to pick a team. There's all the factual stuff and the data and watching games and everything, and there's a gut as well, which I have to trust as well. and sometimes it comes off, sometimes it don't. Sometimes players not playing wouldn't have affected the result anyway. I'm not saying about any individual, but it wouldn't have, because there's other things that were going wrong. But listen, we've talked about the competitive level of this squad, especially this season anyway, and I don't think anyone can sort of sit there and expect to play, or actually if they'll they are playing, they deserve to. So everyone that played last night deserved to. That's the thing. It's it's not just about certain individuals or the history of players at this club. Every player that was on that pitch has done something in the last month or 2 weeks to actually justify why I selected them, in my eyes. And I am the manager, but I get that there's different opinions, and I understand that in football. But I do have logic behind my decisions. I don't just go on a whim. And there's a lot of bits and pieces that go together. But ultimately, that's my responsibility. I'll take that on my shoulders. If I get it wrong, I hold my hands up and I'll say I got it wrong. But that goes for 5 or 6 individuals that didn't play last night.
Yeah, I guess when you talk about people having opinions and having different opinions and whatnot, maybe heightened by the fact that we're talking about Brad Halliday, maybe Andy Cook was in that mix as well when looking at opinions from last night. Players who've been here for a long time and they've got that affinity with the club, and I guess that kind of heightens everyone's wonder and wonder as to what might happen in the future for those players.
Yeah, look, the future for every player is always uncertain because it's the nature of the game. Certainly at this level, you could run your contract down, you could ask for a transfer, you could get bought. You just don't know what's around the corner. That's the nature of football. So there's never any certainty in this sport for any of us really on the long term part of it. But I picked the team for here and now, and I picked the team off the recent past. I'm not looking at 12 months ago, 18 months ago. That'd be madness. So, and listen, and I was judged by those levels as well as a player. I remember at Burnley, I played every single game of the team that got promoted to the Premier League, played nearly every game in the Premier League, and got released the next year. Yeah. It was, And I understood it, I get it. I fought for my survival there. But they moved on from me, and that's how football can be. But I'm not saying that about these individuals, but I'm only going on the recent past. Because we all have to constantly prove ourselves, all of us, me included, the team, individual players, every football club in the world has to do continual proof of what they can do. So I don't think, and if I spoke about those individuals that you just mentioned there, Brad and Andy, I don't think they're wanting to be picked on what they did 12 months ago. I think they value what they're doing now. So they're not coming knock on my door and say, well, I did this last season or the season. They're not doing that. So that fair play to them. Honestly, I see them training. I see how they're competing, and they're trying to prove their worth right now. And that's all I ask of a player. And
final question to wrap this up. I guess. Internally, the base understanding of this squad, the product of time that you've had together, you've been very clear about rotation. There's been that very clear message, hasn't there, for a long period of time of, there is a high level of competition, but there is also that rotation as well. Look,
there's everything that goes into the equation, but it's ultimately it does. I can have ideas of what people, so I build up a trust for players that I've had. For a long while, there's credit in the bank with those guys. Then there's an intrigue about the players who haven't played as a lot. So we're trying to find out more about those, and all these things go from my head. But then it gets all funneled down to how do we win this game? That is honestly my last thought when we decide on the team is right. But does that team help us try and win this game? And that's where it comes down to. And every player, including my history as a player and Chris's and everyone else's, is to prove that you can help that said team win a game of football. And I believe those two players can. But so can Kieran Kelly and Alex Patterson and Tom McIntyre and all this. That's the thing. I've got no favourites, but I do love players who commit to every day and show the right behaviours and attitude and professionalism that you need. and all those guys have been doing that. But unfortunately, I have to make tough decisions. But I'd rather be in this position where you're asking me about good players that are not involved than us scratching for a team and you know what I mean, and not being able to compete. We've already shown this season, certainly in the league, and I believe in the cups in certain aspects, that we've been able to compete most weeks, and that's where. But I also understand if we're going to manage this way and maintain our competitive levels, there are going to be certain individuals along the way that are going to be frustrated with their, amount of minutes. I get that. I'd be the same. So it's not. I don't hold it against anyone. I'm not surprised by it.
Yeah.
I know it's just a fact of life. But as long as the players respect their teammates, they have no problems with me.
Yeah. Plymouth for you next. Long trip for you next as well, and a 12:30 kickoff to contest with, which is fantastic for the travelling fans. I'm sure that was welcome news for them when that came through. How does that deviate your week, if at all, given that you've had a midweek, an away game, and then a long trip coming up?
Yeah, no, it doesn't change any aspect of it, to be honest. No, we were travelling on Friday, as we would have been if it was a 3 o'clock kickoff or 5 o'clock, whatever it is. So nothing changes really. But look, if you've been in England for a number of seasons, you're used to long trips. It's one of the things I think the way clubs look after players now and the levels of professionalism, I don't think it's a problem, to be honest. I think you can perform at the highest level with if you look after yourself continually and consistently. When there's 2 games in 3 days, when there's long journeys and that, I think your body's used to it, and as long as your mind is. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's the mind. So they'll sleep well, nice hotel, nice bed, same prep. They'll be fine.
How wary do you need to be of an opposition like Plymouth? Obviously, it's been a difficult season for them so far, but as we've just been discussing with Antoni, I think this league, particularly this season, is just going to show how difficult it is and how level it is across the board.
Yeah, I think the table tells you that. With the actual amount of points between clubs, 10 places difference, and we've seen the challenge already this season. So I think I said it last week. I'd be surprised if anyone's surprised by the competitive nature of whoever we play. I think what we saw last week at home against Exeter proves how competitive this level is. The Exeter, in the bottom half, but really good team, caused us lots of problems. We had to work exceptionally hard to win the game. So, I think we've got enough senior players and experienced players to understand that we have to maintain our performance against anybody. But I think we've shown that consistently in the league, that we can understand what the challenge is and raise our game to it. So I think the biggest thing, and I know I stress this a lot, but honestly, we have an idea of how our team plays, and we have to just commit to that as much as possible, because I think when we dip below that, I just think we're handing a little bit of strength to the opposition. So I think our best way of competing against any opponent is by getting our A game as good as it possibly can and fully committing to it. And I think in general terms, the players have been doing that consistently in the league against so many different varied opponents. So we just have to maintain that. It's I think the players deserve a lot of credit for what we've done already when we're coming into December. But we also know there's so many challenges ahead, but we're looking forward to them. It's still exciting times for us.
Yeah, and no Bobby with you on Saturday.
No.
I know you said the other week you enjoy those little challenges, trying to solve different areas.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to seeing how you go about solving that one?
Yeah, I think that's why this is why we try and talk about the squad as a group and not be over-reliant on certain individuals. I know we have standout individuals through performance, because this happens: form, injury, suspension. So we have to have a squad that's prepared to go bang. It's why we stay consistent with how we want to play, as in formation-wise and structure and sort of our game principles, because we want the players to have a clear mind, so going from game to game, chopping a formation round just to compete against this individual team and then that team, I think it's just going to add to confusion about players when they come into the team. But even if they're not playing, they're seeing our team play, they know exactly what's expected, so they come in and just hit the ground running, and that's what we hope whoever plays on Saturday does. I think in general terms, the lads have done that really well this season.
Just finally, a very brief word. I mentioned it earlier, but 12:30 kickoff on Saturday, and there'll be a number of Bradford City fans making that journey down. Not the most sociable time to be travelling, but I guess it doesn't come as much of a surprise that you'll be backed in such volume down there. But nevertheless, it'll be appreciated. Without
a doubt, look, it's. But I think it's a little bit badge of honour for supporters when they go to these journeys. I think it's something that they talk about for months on end, especially if you win and stuff like that. I think it's who was there at Plymouth, who was there at Bromley. You know what I mean? When Tuesday night and we score, a winner right near the end. These are things that as a footballer, as a football fan, you sort of take pride in, and I think it's great for us as a team to know wherever we go, we're going to have that support. It's brilliant to see, and hopefully get a good result. 12:30 kickoff. They might get back for last orders, and if they do, hopefully they'll be having a pint with a smile on the face.
Well, thank you.
Cheers, mate.
You've always been very open about the fact that the next match is the most important one, and that's what you're looking at. When you've got a month like the one you've got coming up, do you have to sort of look ahead to how you're going to structure your weeks and the training over that period?
Yeah, we do. Because we want the players to understand what the plan looks like as well. So we always look 4 or 5 weeks ahead and give them the plan. Training days off when we're travelling overnight and stuff. So they've got families, they've got home lives to organise as well. So we want them to have as least disruption in that as possible. So they're adults at the end of the day, with responsibilities. So we look ahead to that schedule. We don't look into the games, obviously apart from an organisational side of it. But we all know what our training plans. Look, we always have subject to change because you never know what could get thrown at, a cancellation or something. But I think it's important to look ahead and sort of plan. But we do that all the way through the season. It's not just at this period. So the players know what's coming.
Presumably, players that are out injured at the moment, you look at potential games when they could be reintroduced into the.
But we're quite vague with that, really. To be fair, we look at a period, a date, really, and then it's because I think it's very hard to pinpoint a game because the player comes back into training, then it's how he responds to that sort of workload and so forth. But there's generally a 2 week window for the 2 or 3 week window for the longer term ones. I think if it's just a knock and they can maybe pinpoint in the next game or something like that. But the longer term ones, I think we stay away from that. And I stay away from actually putting people on the spot for that as well, because we don't want to over pressurise people like the medical staff or the player to do something that sets them back. But the quicker they are back, the better it is for our competition.
Cheers.
Okay, mate.
Obviously, saying, Graham, about having the empathy for the players who aren't involved at the moment. I mean, when you've been through that yourself, does that experience, your past experience, help when you're making decisions because you know how difficult a decision it is and how it's going to be received at times?
Definitely, I think it only happened to me really once, really, where it was a significant amount of time, but it was right at the end of my career, and so it's really fresh in my mind, which was good for me, as in going forward into my coaching career. That it's not some far distant memory like right at the start of it, from 30 odd years ago, that I can't remember it. It was, I think it was a valuable experience for me, really, to take into this career because it's something that hadn't happened to me, throughout my career until that time. And I'll look back at what the manager at the time could have done better with me, what I could have done better as the player, and stuff like that, and then try and take it forward. And so when I do sit down with a player and listen to his frustrations and that, sometimes I do talk about my frustration and understanding. I bet you feel like this. I bet this is what's going through your mind.
They probably appreciate because they sort of realise they're talking to someone who's been in that.
Yeah, I don't think that's going through there at the minute when I'm talking to them. But you know what I mean. I think when look, there's difficult conversations you have to have, okay, and there's always bad news to give to people and stuff like this. I think hiding it away and sort of running people along a garden path and then just drop in a minute. I don't think that's. I wouldn't have been appreciative of that sort of way, and so I try to do the right thing where they might not value it at the time, or they might do, but a month down the line, well, he did have that conversation with me, or even 10 years from now, well, at least he was honest with me, whatever it is. And to be honest, when you do sit down, look, a player can come in, sometimes they're full of emotion, but when you actually start talking to them and listening to them, I think by the time they go out the office, they have a clearer picture. They are mature guys as well. You know what I mean? So they don't go out there, I'm not listening to this and storm out. I've never had that. You know what I mean? So it's always ended in a way where we're both on the same page about the situation. But I always try to give them something to be hopeful for, and something to work off. So I will give players, direct feedback about why I've made this decision and what they have to do if they want to change that trajectory of their career. So it gives them a focus to work on. That's only from my perspective that I wanted that from a manager. If I had to go in and see a manager, I needed something that I could go, right, I'm going to show I can do this. You know what I mean? Not just to keep your chin up. I didn't want that. I wanted something I could work off.
People always talk about they want honesty from their manager, but sometimes I say the truth can hurt, can't it? So it's but it's a case of, do you couch it, or you don't want to be offering false hope and just sort of, as you say, stringing someone along when perhaps they're not in the plans because of this, that, or the other. Yeah,
but the thing is, I remember having 2 conversations, not this summer, the summer before, with a couple of players, and I was straight to the point. But I've not had to have those conversations about out of my plans. Everyone that's here has got an opportunity to play, and I think there isn't a player in that squad that hasn't played this season. That's the reality. Everyone has played who's been fit, and played more than one game. Played in multiple competitions. So that and it's not just games where they have the opportunity. You have the opportunity every time we train. Because we train in a way where I can judge, how a player's feeling, how fit they are, how competitive they are, how understanding of our tactical side they are. So their opportunity is right in front of me every train. That's how we train. It's because I wanted that opportunity when I was a player. I wanted to show the manager every single day, I'm ready for this team, I'm ready for this team. So we train a certain way, so every player has that opportunity. So the thing that I haven't had the game time doesn't really wash me. Because
the opportunity
every day to show the right things, and they have all played. So obviously some more than others, but look, we're in a professional sport, and you have to earn that right. It's not a bus stop where it's just you just wait your turn. So that's the thing. But I think we've got a good group of players here who understand that it doesn't always go their way, but factually there's always going to be unhappy players at every club. So it's just a fact of life.
And as you say, it happened to you towards the end of your career. I mean, you sort of have to address perhaps more experienced players differently to younger players in that scenario.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Because I think with an experienced player, you have to take into account their history. So if they've been used to playing 50 games every season, they're going to feel differently to someone who hasn't got that game sort of bank of credit. And with the younger players, you're actually guiding them into, this is what professional football looks like if you want to be it. Yeah, 100%. So there's a different element to that conversation. So you're trying to. I think the senior player understands the competitive nature of football. I think the younger player probably hasn't experienced that a lot, and you have to educate them into how competitive football is. And we try to do that even with U-team players. That just because you're the second year doesn't mean the first year isn't going to come above you and train with us every day. It's just about who's best. That's how you have to have that element. When we loan young players out, we never ask for a guarantee that they're going to play in that team. So Harry Ibbotson, George Goodman, we don't say to the manager, are they going to play?
They've got to earn that.
100%. Because if they go there and earn it and want to stay there, that means they're coming back as a competitive animal, and we want them to have that competitive edge. So that's how we sort of, that's how the game works. So the quicker we can educate the younger players, the better it is for us.
Leads me on to one question I was going to ask you about the youth team, to be honest, because obviously they've got a big date themselves.
Yes.
Friday night at Selhurst Park. I mean, the opportunity for these young lads to play at a Premier League football ground is one to be grabbed, isn't it?
Yeah, fantastic. We're really pleased for them. I think at first it was going to be at a different venue, it's been moved back to Sellers Park. So, Friday night playing at a Premier League stadium, we've had the buzz of doing that this season. So it's brilliant for the young players. They've earned it. We've a couple of wins already in the competition, and we have 3 or 4 individuals that train with us quite regular. And they would have been a few training with us today, but we left them to the side because obviously they've got a big game on Friday. But Scott Dyer, our analyst, has made sure he's organised a link for us to watch it on Friday night. So it's a great experience for them, and I think they've done really well to get there in this round. And it'd be good to see how they experience the sort of big occasion, because ultimately, if they want to play for Bradford City at Valley Parade, they're going to have to get used to that.
And also, part of it is the travelling again. We've talked about travelling,
Yep.
but, they're presumably going to have an overnight or something, but, they're going to have a long... It's all part of the experience, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and it's when you learn about how players can prepare and how they can keep their discipline and focus on a long journey. Sometimes when you're a bit bored and you want to get a packet of biscuits in your bag or something like that, it's about having that discipline to say, no, I've got a game tomorrow and stuff like that. So I think all these little experiences they have throughout the season, certainly through their apprenticeship, I think it makes an all-round professional football, and these are the tests and the challenges they have to continually face and overcome. But I'm looking forward to seeing how they do, because they're a good bunch of guys and they're coached really well.
And Graham, how important is it that they're aware that you're keeping an eye on them and that you're not just blinkered on the first team?
Look, I think we give the academy staff room to breathe. We don't say copy exactly what we do, because we want them to develop individual players. And there's obviously a team element, but the biggest test for those players, and from my perspective, just go and enjoy the game on Friday and try and win that game. Our examination of them is when they come and train with us, and when they play bounce games with us, because ultimately we don't know who they're playing against in youth team scenarios. But when they come and train with us, we know exactly who they're playing against and who they're training with and stuff like that. So it's much more of a sterner test. And if they can show that they can compete mentally first and foremost, and not just stand off everybody, and they just play the game as if they would if they were in the youth team, then the physical element, and then the next month when they train with us again or something, have they improved in their game understanding? So I think it's a continuing thing. But the thing with football is you're always under the microscope. Then we might not be right there, 2 yards from you or something like that, but everyone's under the microscope in football all the time, because there's so much analysis, there's so much feedback, there's so much knowledge. We have, regular meetings with the academy staff to talk about the future of players and how they're progressing and stuff like that, and then our expectations of young professionals. So you have to get used to that scrutiny as a professional, So never think you're in the shadows. Not on the radar, that's it. You're always there, ready to perform, and then be judged on that performance. And the quicker you get used to that, the better you are.
And just in terms of the first team, thinking particularly more about the players who you haven't worked with so much. When you've left a player out of a game, are you sort of extra vigilant in terms of just seeing how they react about the place in the days after that? Yeah,
100%. Yeah, definitely. I think. How they train as well. So that's this morning, for instance, all the players who didn't play trained, and I take all the sessions along with Chris and Tree and Colin Doyle. So there's never, like I just said, there's always scrutiny. There's never a session that goes on where I'm not taking it and being involved in it. So I want them to understand they're just as important as the lads who started last night and who will start Saturday. I need. If I had a training session manager weren't there was a bit missing from me a little bit, where I need to show that guy I want to play. So I'm there for every single minute, and we try and push them, and we try and put them in scenarios where they can show their value to the team. So, but it's not just there. It's the canteen, it's the gym, it's on the bus to the game, it's on the bus from the game. All those sort of things. That is so important to us, and I know how difficult it is to think of the greater good in those certain situations, because we're in a team sport. There's very much an individual side to it where it's your career, but you have to get that balance right as a professional, or it goes against you. Certainly if you're at a club like ours, in a team like ours, that values the group dynamic, because that's what we are as a club. It's about the whole squad. It's about all the staff here at the training ground, at Valley Parade, the supporters. We always have to think about each other all the time, and that's the basic standard of anybody at Bradford City, I would expect.
Because you mentioned balance, and like most things, there is a balance, isn't it? You want them to be competitive and trying to impress you. Yeah. The last thing you want is them to just be shrugging their shoulders and accepting it as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. So so I don't. It's getting that balance right where, the understanding what a good professional is and what a good professional behaviour is. It's not just being okay with everything and just going, I'm happy to be here. It's not that. But it's deep in respect about, we're all professional footballers. There's no bad professional footballer. You know what I mean? That's it. If you're a professional, you're in the 0.05% of people who've kicked the ball. So there's no such thing as a bad professional footballer. So that's how you have to have that respect for what's going on around you. And but you still have to have that inner drive. But understand what gets you in the team then. It's not through sulking, I'll tell you that now. It's not through talking to me about what you could do. Yeah, I'll tell you that now. It's not that. It's about what you do. That's how you behave and how you become a team. Because if we're just a group of individuals, we're not going to win anything. We're not going to be successful. We have to be one group that always backs up our teammate. And I think the more competitive you are, I think you're stretching your teammate anyway. I think then you're trying to chase him, then you're stretching yourself. I think it's one of those, but I understand human beings. I was one myself. I mean, a footballer, not a human being. Said that the wrong way. As a footballer, so I understand, and I had every single emotion. I mean, every single one. Lost my temper, sulked, fought like hell, was really happy. Every emotion I went through as a player. So I do have empathy, but I do understand that I had to toe the line and understand what the game was. And we're in a team sport, and we love being a part of a team. But there's a responsibility and a price on the ticket for being part of a team. And that's all I ask for from the players. But my door is always open so they can come and vent their frustrations, vent their opinions, but then go outside and show what they're about. So any negative thing, bring it to my office and let's get out there and then we can crack on with our lives. And I think we've got a really good group to do that.
And it's very early in the season still. There's a long time to go, but you've got an opportunity to go top on Saturday. Will that be significant?
I wonder where you're going with that. I think it's a long way to go.
We're not halfway through yet.
Yeah, no. That's not my thoughts. I know we've done great in the league so far. With how the team's performed, how it's competed, limited downtimes for me this season so far. When we consider we're in December now, but I rode back from it a couple of weeks ago when I felt my frustration at looking at the bigger picture sort of got on top of me, and that's just going to negatively affect the players. So I've come back from that sort of thought process and gone back to what we've always been before, really, about just taking the next game as the most important one in our lives and commit to that, and then do that again repeatedly if we can. And what will be, but it's far too soon to be thinking about that, to be honest. Sure.